Hi, everybody. It's Lori, and I have a guest with me who was on the last hangout with us, Philip. And he and I are going to hang out, and we have the chat open. And anybody who wants to ask a specific question, if it relates to what we're talking about, thank you for joining us. And we have Ronnie moderating the chat, and he can let us know what the questions are so we don't have to watch that. We're going to move pretty quick. We're going to talk about a lot of different topics, and we're just going to do our typical stream of consciousness kind of conversation where we just go where it goes and let it lead where it leads and not necessarily have an agenda. So thanks for joining us. This is an unusual time for us, but it is because Philip lives in Russia. So we're doing this earlier in the day so that he isn't trying to talk to us at 3 o'clock in the morning. So welcome, Philip.
Hi, guys.
So we're gonna start out with kind of getting to know Philip just a little bit and have this conversation get started on kind of a comfortable note. And of course, today we're going to talk about all kinds of topics. Flat Earth obviously will be one of them and a part of it, but we're also going to talk about what's been going on since the video was released called "No Forests on There's No Forests on Earth," Flat Earth, or I can't remember the title now, but it has no forests in it, and it has sort of taken the Flat Earth community by storm, but it's also filtered out into some other the truth people, truth movements, alternative media. So it's a very interesting topic, and it is not new. Just for those who think this is, breaking, it's not a new topic. People have been talking about giants. People have been talking about possibly that rocks used to be a silicon life form. And so all we're doing is just sort of picking up the pieces of the puzzle and trying to fit them into something that makes sense, but actually not trying to make them fit. We're trying to analyze if they do fit, and if any of this information helps us to get to the truth of who we are, where we came from, why we're here, who created us, all of those questions. And it all leads back to the reason why I got started in this in the first place is because somebody is controlling pretty much everything about our world, and it is not to our benefit. And if it were up to me, we would tumble whatever their pyramid is that they're hiding in, or tunnel, or government house, whatever it may be, and get us back our human freedom and our freedom to think and do and come and go as we please on Earth. So with that said, Philip, can you maybe describe a little bit about you and your background? I'm not interested in what you do to make a living unless that's pertinent, but more about what your hobbies are or your interests and how you spend your time researching, because it's obvious that you're quite a researcher.
Hi, guys. Well, I was a TV worker, so I worked on TV. I was a manager, development manager, or maybe a vice CEO or something like that on development. So we had that conference TV channel, and it was broadcasting all the conferences in Russia and Europe, and so it was pretty good experience. Then I came to be an advertising agency development manager. So we made those videos, commercials, and advertising. And right now I'm working as a development executive manager in this web and advertising agency.
Cool.
And I also was a um, law enforcement officer, and it was till 2007 or 2007, so it was like 10 years ago. Then I switched to the topic of researching because I found out a lot of information, and I quit that job because it was a parasite job, as I thought. And maybe the Book of Enoch helped me with this one because something was written about this parasite government jobs, and it was not very good. So we just thought it was pretty obvious to quit. And so even though I was a big boss and I was the head of economic crimes department, which is like a tax police in the United States, you know, the IRS or something like that. So I had a
Well,
pretty
let me
nice.
just say I'm real proud of you for quitting that job and moving on from that because those of us who are awake and aware certainly don't like the parasitic jobs, and those who do them, and if they would stop doing them like you did, then maybe that would help change things. So sorry for breaking in, but congratulations on that awakening.
Yes, you know, first of all, I found the information about those Nibiru planet and Planet X, and some guy who was uh, who wrote those crazy articles about building the next planet for us, and we would transfer to this planet after 2012 and stuff like that. It was pretty crazy. But we read all those articles, those books, and it was pretty interesting at that time. And maybe it was the first step of acknowledging what is going on, because I was kind of familiar with the political situation because I was a head of department, which probably is one of the middle steps of the pyramid in that system. So I already knew those who were on top of the pyramid, and I could talk to them. And still, I was living along with the middle and the bottom of this pyramid. So I was just like a regular man, a normal person, and I uh, couldn't exaggerate what they saying. So, but it was pretty hard to understand what they meant, and what they meant was that you are getting nowhere without a corruption, without the mafia stuff, and maybe at that time I was disappointed with all this democracy, with all this bull that they give us about free of will, about the elections, because I was participating in elections organizations, and so I know how election works.
I
Really,
used to do that too, so I know what you're talking about. I
it's
used to work at the elections and I've actually run for office a couple of times. Live and learn, right?
I don't know how do you do those elections, but what we did is we saw not that very much people, and we had huge percentages in those districts that I was controlling. So they just put the numbers, any numbers they want, so they can like report to the head office and say we had those elections figured out. We had a lot of normal, you know, visits by those guys, by our citizens. It was very popular, and we had to spend some money on it, of course, but it's not a big deal, and we don't want to report where's money at. So elections is just a way of spending money because everybody knows who's gonna win before the elections. You know, that's the main point that I've realized at that time.
Right.
And even now, we see this theater and see those elections all over the world about the Brexit again. You know, that referendum in Britain about,
Yeah, Brexit. Uh-huh.
yeah, Brexit. It was just pathetic. You know, everybody knew that they're not supposed to exit, but still, we have this decision that they're exiting this European Union because You know, it's a political will by the maybe not all the people, because Scotland is a big place in Britain, and it's against the Brexit, and the Union didn't think it's a good idea for Britain to exit. So I don't think it's really the referendum percentage which decided that majority decided that we should exit this European Union. I think it's a political will which made this puppet show for us, and so
So you're
I'm
saying it's a part of the script that,
yes, yes, yes.
yeah, okay.
Just like Donald Trump is gonna win, because 2 years from now, everybody was laughing at me when I was talking about Donald Trump, and I was saying, oh, maybe not 2 years, maybe 1.5 years or something like that. But it's not this year, because this year is everybody so it's obvious already that he's gonna win the Republican nomination. But the year before, no one believed in this, and everybody said it's Ted Cruz or who was it, Jeb Bush or whoever, not
Right.
Trump, because he was a clown, and everybody said he's a clown and he's just joking, kidding around. And right now, he's not a clown, because he is a nominee for Republican Party, and that's a great deal, because um, this person can change the United States. My point
Well, you
on
and I
this.
are probably going to go head to head on that one because nobody's going to change the United States. We're stuck. There's
Ah,
no all the presidents are puppets, and there's
yes,
no matter no matter who gets elected, there's an agenda behind the scenes, and it's it's always been set up that way since the United States was made a corporation in whatever it was, 1871. So um, anyway, that's that's my take on that. But I don't want to talk a whole bunch about politics. But I can understand from your perspective how you would see that or think that. And I could be wrong. You could be more right than I am because I'm right in the heart of it. So
we're gonna see who's gonna change it. But I think he is the person who's gonna change it. My point is that he risked his reputation, and he risked it already, and he had bad reputation. You know, he lost a couple of bankruptcy cases, and so he had bad reputation. And right now he has all the reputation sucked in, all the impossible reputation, and he is just the perfect candidate. You know,
huh, that's interesting that you see it that
because
way because I
we,
personally can't stand the guy. But Hillary wouldn't be a choice for me either. None of them. None of these. They're all puppets. They're all puppets.
yes, but he is a part of a plan, and we can't do anything about it.
You're
He's a
right.
part of a plan, just like Brexit, and that's why I believe he's gonna change it, because the plan is to change things. You know, we're gonna
Okay,
see a
so you
whole
don't.
bunch of
So
change.
you're saying that you don't think it's changed for the good. You think it's changed for the worse?
It's like a stock markets. You know, today we winning, tomorrow today we buying, tomorrow we selling. You know,
Hmm.
stock markets. Today we buying, and we buying it that Trump's gonna make it a change, make a different way. But what is it? We don't know. We think it's gonna be better. Why? Because he gives us hope that no war is gonna be committed. No war, World War III. You know, that's
Okay,
the
so
main point.
you're basing it on that. Okay, I can see probably where you're coming from a Russian standpoint. Yeah.
Yes, if Clinton's gonna win, then we have the continuing of the politics that we have today, and we're gonna have a war sooner or later, maybe 2 or 3 years from now, but we have a huge risk of having a war. So,
All right. Well,
uh,
I'm going to go against what you say just because when the globalists, and I call them that because they're the ones that are perpetuating this whole global scam, when they decide there's going to be a war, there's nothing anyone's going to do about it. Not the people, not the leaders of a country. They get behind the scenes. They're the ones that created the World War I and World War II, and when they decide that it benefits them, they'll create World War III. And that's why I said that I believe all of these leaders that they put in place are puppets, because they're not making these decisions, and the people below them in the pyramid are not making the decisions. It's the people at the top in the capstone of the pyramid that are making those decisions. So anyway, that's interesting, and I'd like to change direction, because I do that
Okay.
often. One of the things that you and I met virtually over the no forest concept, and also with regards to flat Earth. We became Facebook friends, and I joined you to my group, and we had a conversation, a hangout, and then I invited you to the hangout that we had this past Wednesday. And so I'd like to kind of continue along the same line that you and I were discussing, and that you also discussed on the show, some of your ideas and proofs for why you believe in this idea of possibly rocks and megalithic structures and these big so-called mesas or stumps, and the possibility that there was a Silicon era before us, before the one we live in now, or not. And then I'd also like, you've done some research into mining, both ancient mining and comparing to modern day mining. And then we'll go from there and see where that leads. But I'd like to answer to those who are saying this is a distraction. This is trying to get people off of flat Earth and off of trying to topple the control system, and that this is just some dreamy, fanciful idea. Also, if you think or have found any evidence of what tools or machinery would have been used to cut down these giant trees, and do this giant mining. That ought to be enough to get you started.
Oh, that's just fine. Okay. Let's see. Can you see what I'm sharing
Not yet.
right now?
Yes. I will.
Okay.
I will just put you on presentation until you are done.
Okay. So why are we all like meeting each other? Like the guys who want to research these objects and subjects and questions and all this flat Earth stuff. So we're on the hundredth monkey effect. Do you know anything about it?
Yes, I've studied that also.
So
And let me just say that I partially believe in it, but I do base it on the fact that some of the experiments that people use to base as a basis for the hundredth monkey effect has turned out to not be true. So
okay, I'm based on the conception. Maybe
okay,
the experiment
okay,
didn't work.
continue. I just wanted to put that in there, that there's going to be somebody who's going to say, oh, that 12 monkeys or 9 monkeys in the water hose and the ladder and all that has what turned out to be not true. So, but I do
Yeah.
agree that there is a hundredth monkey effect concept.
So if we are such as those monkeys, we like doing our business, hanging around, and then some of the time we understand how to do something, and we maybe communicate non-verbally, like in this global information field, which is presenting right now with the internet system, and we connect with each other. So somehow we realized that we have this cellular structure, which is similar to that experiment, because that experiment showed us that a whole bunch of monkeys figured out on the different islands, not that only one. And so the islands that were close to that cell, that island, which were inhabited by those monkeys, so it transferred that information to the different islands. And that's how cellular structure works. So if we have one cell filled with information, the cells that are close to that cell gonna get that information from that cell, and they're gonna spread it out in this virus type of thing. So it's a viral information, I think it's called in social media marketing. So if we have this viral effect, then obviously sooner or later someone's gonna meet each other, and someone's gonna talk, and someone's gonna act, because right now we're on the stage of information and informating each other. We are not on the stage of acting. And I'd like you to ask some questions on this topic before I continue to some other things.
Okay. Well, the idea of the 100th monkey effect is that take you off present. If I learn how to do something and somebody sees me do it, in other words, if somebody used to use a rock to hammer something, and I go and create a hammer that is more functional, and I bring my hammer out and I start to hammer, then somebody's going to see that, just like you see the otters, use a rock to crack open a clamshell, for example. I'm getting a message, Rupert Sheldrake. What was the one before that? I need to go back in the chat here for a second and see what that says. The 100th monkey is called morphic resonance, Rupert Sheldrake. Okay, thank you, whoever jumped that in there. And so, yeah, the whole concept, is not just something abstract in your head. We've seen it in action. So I'm 100% behind that. Now, the fact of it jumping from, let's say, this island over here and these monkeys to this island over here and these monkeys, and that little monkey didn't swim from this island to this island to show the rest, then that's where the sort of morphic resonance concept comes in, and it becomes in, I guess,
network,
the consciousness through network, through the neural network. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
We're in agreement on that.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And I mean that right now, through these internet services like Hangouts, Facebook, and Skypes, and all this, we are doing just all those monkeys did. We are swimming to each other from island to island. We're spreading those information, and it's a good thing. And
it's a very good thing. And I mean, even though there's an upside and a downside to everything, the good thing is we're sharing information. What would have been the chances of you and I living across the earth from each other, having this conversation virtually on a hangout a year ago or 10 years ago, probably wouldn't have happened. But because we found a commonality, then we got connected. And so it's sort of also that degrees of separation, which is it, 9 degrees, something like that, degrees of separation. We're all connected within a fairly small circle.
Yeah, there's a lot of conceptions. I'm talking that this is a good thing. It's a great thing that we're doing it, and that this effect is working. Because we are spreading this neural information, and we act like others do, and it's a good thing. We informing the people around us. We're on the first stage right now. So the second stage is acting, but we can get to this acting stage because we don't have enough people. We don't have the critical mass like those monkeys did. You know, if we had a critical mass, that maybe a whole bunch of people would get this information, and maybe 1% of those people are actors, the real leaders, and they can figure out what to do with this information. Well, we on this stage, we don't know what to do with this information. We're just, researching and informing other people. That's what we do.
Well, and let me interject here that I've been an advocate of open source, information sharing for many, many years. And I also am an advocate of, or in support of, what could be known as internetocracy, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
That is that I believe that we have the capacity to lead ourselves, and we no longer require these remote representatives or leaders to make decisions for us, to travel to some place like the Kremlin or to Washington, D.C., and on our behalf, and decide for us what our laws and ordinances and everything else should be. I think we're quite capable and should be responsible to lead ourselves. And I think there actually would be a lot fewer problems and a lot less corruption if each of us had to learn everything that we need to know to lead ourselves or rule ourselves. That's what I'm an anarchist.
No, I see. If you, this is an autocracy type of order, right?
Well, I'm more anarchy, and the root of the word anarchy is no rulers. And I don't think anybody, no one is born to rule, and no one is born to be a slave. We're all equal. And but what happened was, a long time ago, we gave up our personal responsibility to lead ourselves, and we gave it away to rulers that make the laws, tell us what to do. Some people think that's a good thing, because if we're left to our own, it would be chaos and disorder and everything else. And that has not proven out to be that way in any of the other so-called animal kingdom. They work together mostly. And yes, there is always going to be some chaos, but that's my take, my own personal take. I don't vote for elected people anymore. People say, well, that's giving up your responsibility to elect your leaders. And if I don't drive a car, it can't possibly be my fault that a bunch of people on a highway have a big crash. So that's my personal viewpoint on that. So back on the topic, the idea is, can you read the chat? Ronnie has written something in
it's completely nonsense what is written. I don't understand what.
Okay, it doesn't make any sense. Okay,
yeah.
just checking. He probably tried to translate something.
So,
okay, so back on the neural network thing. Okay, so we're there. We're all connected via the internet. We're all connected via this giant neural network, and we see that it's a good thing and a bad thing. Okay, so let's take it from there.
So that's a good thing, and the bad thing is such called selective perception. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you're presenting.
Okay. When we talk about that stump, or maybe a stump that is a devil's mountain, they measured it like a sequoia type of thing. But why wasn't it the oak stump? So it would be not that tall, maybe a kilometer or 50 meters high, and it would be just quite measurable and have a size that is comparable to those 36 feet guys that Lawrence showed us on his diagram or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
So we don't have to have those huge guys that Lawrence measured yesterday with a huge weight or some like
Okay.
100
I
tons and
totally
stuff like
see
that.
where you're going here. You're saying it doesn't have to be tall because it could be broad, wide.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It can be like an Avatar movie, not that tall, okay? But it's
Mhm.
huge, but not that tall,
Right.
okay?
Yeah, we have these trees where I live, the live oak, and they do grow out. I see where they've got it propped up with blocks to keep it off the ground because it tends to rot when that happens. But they grow out and out and out for quite a distance. And I agree with you, and I came to some of the same conclusions myself based on how far apart these tree stumps are.
Yes,
That would make more sense that they would be broad out across the ground versus up.
yes. And we don't see a whole bunch of them near each other, but they are just abroad, and that's correct. So today I was walking in forest, and I was just trying to find such structures so I can, picture them. And those are the stumps that I found. And we see the structure. Do you see the structure?
Brilliant.
Yes,
It's completely comparable.
comparable, but it doesn't have those, blocks, those hexagonal blocks. It
Right.
has a round structure, and it really splits in rounds in those circles, but it doesn't split in those, fibers that we have on the Devil's Rock.
Correct.
So it's a pine tree right now.
Right. So all that's saying, or what you're saying, is that's one particular type of tree,
Yes.
but that these stumps that we're seeing that people are saying, oh, those are just basalt columns, the hexagonal ones, could just as easily been a different type of tree.
Yes, we have a lot of trees, and that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
And if we have to, prove that all these mountains are stumps, we gotta find those huge trees laying around them. If
Right. And what if they're not even the same types of trees today that they were then? Meaning, if the structure of the trees went from being silicon to carbon, they very well may be totally different species of trees.
Yes, and that guy is talking about forest. The video's name, No
Right.
Forest. So he's not talking about the trees or stumps. He's talking about the forest. And the main idea that it was a forest. And if it was a forest, we should have not only those flat stumps. We should have stumps like that. And he's showing them those stumps. Like he's pointing on those mountains and saying maybe those stumps are broken, and maybe it's maybe just like pieces of those wood, cotton wood or something like that. But we don't have those, huge long woods. How do you call this in
Right.
English?
The actual felled tree or the
Fell tree, because
fallen tree. Right.
yeah, the fallen tree, because not every tree was maybe sought with those mining guys. Maybe they were just like broken from the wind or something like that. Just like in our days, we walk through the forest and we find those trees. And if we find such kind of stumps laying around with those roots hanging out of them, we
Hmm.
can prove that all mountains were stumps and were wood or some kind of natural, thing.
Right.
And we don't have, maybe we have some like this laying around, but we don't have these types of things. And they are
Right.
all around any forest. You can find them.
Well, I have seen. rock formations that do look like that, and I'll show you some pictures
Yes,
when
that's why I picture those stumps,
right.
because they
That looks
looking
exactly like
just like
that.
rock. It's another type of tree. It's not a pine tree, and maybe it looks like a rock more than the pine tree. So
Right.
we have to have those, fallen trees. That's what I'm talking about. And
Okay,
this is a
so
structure.
what
Oh, look
if
at this one. Look at this one.
exactly? What if, and again, all this is speculation. Oh, nice mushroom there.
Yeah, and we have to have such fallen trees that are, have the elevation on the ground, because it was fallen and it has like this elevation. So
Uh-huh.
when it's fallen, it's just supposed to hang on like this one in the air, and we don't have such mountains, right? No
Right.
one's seen this. So
Nobody.
we, if
Right.
we can find them, definitely we didn't have such forest as that guy tells us in this video.
Okay.
It's
So,
definitely oak type of forest where not much trees, or maybe a cellular type of forest when we have one huge tree in each cell, right? And
okay.
they are like a network of those trees, like an avatar. Maybe this is a good idea in this case, if we can, prove about these trees. Okay, you were saying something?
Okay, so let's think about this then. We know that there is history, recorded and oral, verbal, passed down through generations history, that there was a giant flood. All right. And so we could extrapolate from that perhaps some, and I'm using a lot of what ifs here to make my case, and I'm actually not trying to make any case. I'm just trying to do a what if or an if then. And in an if then scenario, if there was this giant flood and some of these trees were left fallen over and on the ground, that perhaps they got covered over with mud, and
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps they rotted with their own version of rot, which is, we do have a lot of small rocks and sand. What if there was a frozen era where things were, these glaciers formed, which we were taught also in history as children. I grew up going to my grandparents' farm in southern Illinois in the States, and we were told that there was a giant glacier that pushed down from the north, and that it pushed all of these big rocks and everything's flat up to there, and there's no mountains, and yeah, sure enough, in the forest of their property, there were these giant rocks. I mean, we used to climb up on them, and they were big solid chunks. They weren't just those layered strata like shale.
Yeah.
um, so all that being said, perhaps there's some covering up. Perhaps there weren't as many trees as we think there were, and that it
Yes.
was a big network, okay, and that they did spread out versus up, and that would, if somebody came along and cut them down, then they probably, why would you cut it down unless A, you just were malicious and wanted to destroy them, or B, you wanted to use them for something. So you took them somewhere and built something with them, or burned them up for fire. I don't know. That's another part of the question. Maybe there was an epic fire. The guy in the video, David, the No Forest video, did say that there's a massive amount of carbon in the ice at the South
Yes.
Pole,
Yes.
Antarctica, and
Yes.
that so much carbon that it's, what did he say, to 20,000 times more than what we have now.
We have to check on those facts, and there's a
Yeah, we
brilliant
do. We
facts.
absolutely do. But let's just suppose that one thing that happens to trees is, and I don't know what happens to silicone when you set it on fire. I mean, it melts more than, I mean, it does burn, but It's not like a carbon tree would burn.
It's again, I'm talking about the selective perception. As for me, I'm a humanitarian person. I don't know that chemistry and physics, as well as maybe Lawrence or some other guys who were good at physics, at school. But I was an algebra and geometry fan, but I wasn't good in chemistry. We have to have those specialists to take their opinion and say what can they, tell us about those facts. But my point is we have a selective perception, and if we're looking at those parts of wood that I've pictured, it looks like the mountain structure that we seen on Devil's Tower and stuff like that.
It sure
But
does.
But if we look at the spine structure, it doesn't look the same. It looks kind of the same, but it has the same form of a stump, and maybe it can be seen as this, but it's a selective perception. And I'm gonna prove you this one just a little bit later. Okay.
Okay.
Why is it
Okay.
so selective?
Well, and there you go. You never notice anything until you notice it the first time, and then once you notice it the first time, you then compare other things to it. For example, when I was a kid and I went to that same forest at my grandparents' house, one of the delicacies, good tasting, mushrooms, that fungi that grew in the woods were called morel mushrooms, and they're very hard to find. They just have a tiny little head that pokes up out of the leaves, or just hard to spot when you've got leaves, forest leaves everywhere. But once you find your first one, then you can see them easily. So a lot of people are get caught up in that. They see the Devil's Tower. It looks like this kind of a tree stump. Ergo, everything's a tree stump, and that's not a good comparison.
Okay, how do you call the guys who cook cakes and stuff like that?
Cakes.
Not the bakers, but the ones
Oh,
who
I
cook.
see. Okay, that's like a baklava.
No, this is a cake called Napoleon. It's very famous in Russia.
Okay,
It
it's
consists of different
lots of
layers.
layers of pastry. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're a cook, maybe a cook who he is specialized on cakes, and whole your life you're doing those cakes, those Napoleons every day. And when you watch this video about the no forest, you're gonna see a whole bunch of cake layers, right?
Uh-huh.
If you are a miner, if you are, third generation miner, and what you do every day is you go to your mine, you mine for like 12 hours a day, and when you see those videos about no forest, you're gonna definitely see mines, right? Because you're a miner and you think those layers are definitely the mine ones. So this is a selective perception that I'm talking about. And my point is that we have to check all those facts in complex, because we had a bunch of truth in that video. First truth is that there are stumps of actual trees, and they consist of silicon. That's correct. And the second thing is a lie. There were no forests because there were no such forest as that guy tells us. No such deep and forest with a lot of trees. And this is correct because we don't have signs of those trees everywhere. If those trees were cut, like you say, and then where did they get those trees? And probably if they did it for gardening purposes because those trees were like sick, and what they did is made those machines to made those trees like these little pieces and spread them all around those areas to promote.
We call that mulch.
Yeah, we call it mulch in Russia too. So
Okay.
so they mulch those trees and they spread it all around, and that's why we have so many sand everywhere, we have so many rocks, like in all those areas, like where
Okay.
those stumps are. And
Okay, that's an interesting concept. Many people probably never thought about that they ground them up and made mulch out of them.
that's why they are so flat, because those guys who are, parasite in the forest, they don't care how they cut them. They cut them this way or that way, and probably they 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 won't be so flat and perfect, parallel to the observation ground. They might have some angles, like maybe this tree has an angle, right?
Right.
And they would cut it with an angle. So, but they are all flat and parallel. So those guys who cut them, probably they were like good guys, and they said, "Oh, we should cut them so it won't harm any nature and stuff like that." Maybe. So that's my point. That they cut them and they mulched them. That's why we have so many rocks and we have so many sand.
Right. That
And
makes sense. I mean, that,
so
there's more than one way to look at everything, isn't there?
yes, and if we have those stumps, and we should dig those roots and prove that they are stumps. Like this is a picture. We see like some ground fell off this tree, and we see those roots,
Right.
right? And
Reminds
so
me reminds me of caves, Philip.
yeah, and so we gotta prove that those caves are made of roots or something like that. Because if we can prove it, if they don't have such structures like long, uh, parallel, or random type of direction of those roots, and they all coming from one center of this tree stump, maybe this is the only way with how to prove this thing.
Well, see, here's another thing. Okay, so you're saying, all right, well, we have to dig underneath the Devil's Tower, for example, and find out if there's a root system underneath of it.
Yes.
Sadly, you won't be able to do that because what have they done with all of these nature, areas? They've made them into national parks, national monuments. I don't know about your country, but in mine, and you can't take anything off of that property. You can't, dig in you can't disturb anything, destroy anything, so on and so on.
But we should find something like this. Yeah.
I mean, you're showing mulch and chips
No,
of
I mean
trees,
this
and
one.
I've seen rocks that look like that.
If we can find those, a whole bunch of them, and that's the only way we can prove it. When we see those roots, spraying out of this center,
Okay,
spread them around.
let me share screen for a minute.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the slide player of weathering and erosion, they're calling it. Our governments and our science agencies all have terms for everything. Nice. Why isn't it going to work? Okay, maybe you just play the slideshow. And it's not working. Okay. Wonder why that is. Oh, it's loading. Here we go. Okay, so they're talking about a breakdown of rocks at or near the surface. Wow, this is like in fast speed. Let me slow this down. When buried ice left by a glacier melts and leaves a depression. Glacier melts, oh, see? They've got some BS science about all these kinds of things. Why isn't this slide player working right, Ronnie? Or am I too dumb to figure out how to use it? All right, we'll come back to that. maybe you can help me later on. Um, the whole idea is, you know, what I call BS science. I've gotten to the point now where I re-question all of science, and that includes geology and all of the historical terms that we've all learned and were ground into our head and pounded into our brains when we were children about how to explain all these things. And so now it's just like the same things we learned when we became interested in researching flat Earth. We had to go and look at gravity. We had to go and look at space and what are planets and what are stars and what is, how does the sun and moon work and all of that stuff. So now we're kind of doing the same thing with the geology and all the earth sciences, relooking at everything and listening to ideas about volcanoes and everything else. I mean, somebody said to me today, well, or in a comment on Facebook said, well, what if volcanoes are nothing more than just a regurgitation of all of our poisons that we dump into the earth, all these years, and it just piles up and systemically gets regurgitated back out. Again, you have to trace backwards to where this so-called lava comes from, and perhaps it's just been underground, covered up for thousands of years, moldering and smoldering underneath of there. So, okay, I want to revisit something at your, in your order, but we were talking the last time about all of the caverns and the catacombs underneath of the cities, some of the cities in Russia and other countries where there were just hundreds of thousands of bones dug up, or stacked up. Can you, when I asked you a question and you misunderstood and answered something else, so I know you wanted to address that, Philip.
Yes, but maybe we should continue on the topic before and
okay, go ahead. I'm just saying for later, if you can, in your time, pull up that picture. Okay.
Next one. So, okay. Do you see those?
Yes.
Trees? Yeah. So we gotta find such kind of stumps. If we.
Well, that's another one. Yeah, I've seen some. I've seen some rock formations that do look like that. I saw one similar to that, partially buried on the coast of Oregon in the United States, and it looks like that. It looks like, they tell us that, the oceans used to be deeper and they hollowed out these areas along the coastline in the rocks and so on and so on.
And if we find them, it'd be a great proof for this theory, because we have a whole bunch of those in the forest. So it should be somewhere in some stump that we can find. Okay, and another one.
Somebody's listening just then, because I just went to start typing in Oregon coast and it came automatically up in my Google search, Oregon coast rocks with holes. Thank you, Google. Go ahead.
Okay, so my point is that in that video, that David guy, he is talking about some obvious things that I can, say that is correct. First of all, about the stumps, that there are stumps, and the second thing is about the flood. There was a flood, but not that long ago. Okay, maybe it's not the first flood, but definitely when he's talking about those trees, and he's saying that there are no trees older than 150 years, he is correct. But what does it have to do with those huge stumps? I don't understand. He's, mixing the truth and some non-proven uh, information that we cannot prove right now, or say it's not correct exactly. But he's mixing it up. So I found those pictures about Russia, and what I found is that we had a lot of pictures when the Kremlin and all those huge buildings that we have were like this. So they look pretty abandoned, no person near them. And we have like a whole bunch of those pictures.
Okay, but
Can you see them?
these are all illustrations. These are drawings. These are not
Yeah.
actual photographs.
Yeah, that was you cannot draw anything if you can see it, if you're a painter. So that painter definitely saw what he was painting, because it has a lot of details, and you just can't imagine all those things.
Well,
If I tell you, okay, Laurie, can you paint me a Kremlin tower, Spassky tower with the clock? Would you paint it for me?
well, I mean, there's a difference between imaginary and trying to paint photorealism without ever having seen it. But I can paint all kinds of imaginary things. People do that all the time. But this obviously is an artist trying to make an illustration, a rendition of reality here. I understand what you're saying.
I think that he tried to show us that the Kremlin was abandoned for a couple of years, and it was not that far long ago, because it was like 18th to 19th century.
Okay.
So we see like two persons, and we see all this, grass and little bushes growing on the tops of the
Right.
buildings, which is not very good. It looks like an
Right.
abandoned.
That definitely looks abandoned. That's how they always depict things when they're doing some post-apocalyptic movie. They always have,
Yeah.
trees growing out of the gutters and the windows broken out, and yeah.
So my point is that there was a flood, but it was not that long ago. Not as long as we think.
Thousands and thousands of
Yeah,
years.
thousands of years,
Right.
because it's not correct. So, okay, and
Here is just so I can show you. This is just one version
mhm.
of the rocks of the coast of Oregon, and let's see if I can move this around. It blew up so big that I can't see the bottom. Now it went to full screen. Oh, okay, never mind that, because now I can't see it moving around. But the idea is, let me go back to there. See that hole in there?
Yes.
Why would the sea have made that hole? Why would that have happened? That looks like a piece of burled wood to me. You know what
Maybe.
burl is? Burl is when the tree trunk has a fungus or a virus growing in it, and it gets a big knot in it, and it just grows this big gnarly knot on the trunk.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Okay.
And we're supposed to have such trees, I'm gonna show you. Uh, Again, this one. See, these are two different trees, and they grew in each other,
Right.
So we're supposed to have mountains with a different structure standing close to one another, and that
Okay.
be the proof of that actually those mountains were parts of ancient forests. So let me just
Okay,
finish
so
on this
you're
topic.
saying there would be mountains with two different kinds of rocks
Yeah.
next to each other.
Yes. Yes,
Well,
because
I
we
mean, I
have.
have seen this kind of thing before. I've actually even going back again to my grandparents' property, the Indians used to live there, and they had an underground spring that came up out of the ground that was really nice, beautiful, pure, crystal clear water, and it bubbled up through the rocks. And the Indians had dug a hole in the rock to make a little, you know, um, container, I guess, in the rock for the water to bubble up and for them to drink out of. And one of the things they used to do to tell other Indians that were traveling through that there was fresh water there was to bend a tree. And so there was a bent tree that was probably about as big around as, I can reach, growing right by this fountain of water in the rock. So, oops, I lost Philip. Maybe he couldn't hear. And so hopefully he can be back. And so the idea is that, there should be maybe even some trees that are, bent. So
Mm-hmm.
you dropped out. I don't know if you heard that part, but I was talking about the Indians had literally bent a tree, which
Mm-hmm.
you can do with young saplings. You can bend them and tie them to the ground, and then, they grow back up. And it's exactly what it looked like. It went like that. There's all kinds of anomalies, is what I'm saying, oddities of the way trees grow. But one thing I want to make sure of that people understand, we're sort of doing a pro and a con and a pro and a con to this. In other words, we're questioning not only the no forest video, but our own thinking of, we saw this and we got excited and it looks like something that, makes sense, but we have to, approach it from a scientific method, and that is, repeatable, observable kind of exercise. So,
Okay. Well, let's jump to giant topic because we haven't talked about this today.
okay.
So what I found on the in this period that we from the last hangouts. So I found this actual document. Okay, let's see what happens. But if you see this little guy here, do you see anything?
Okay.
This is a great grand cham of Tartaria, as they call it.
What?
Tartaria
Say again. Champ.
cham. It's like what it's
Cham.
if great cham, yeah. So the Grand Cham means that this guy was like the emperor or something like that. So the Tartaria place. Have you heard about Tartaria?
No.
No? Okay. I'm gonna show you the map of Tartaria so you can understand what was it. Tartaria.
Tartaria. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like maybe
Is this an
this
area? This is an area, Tartaria?
yeah, this is a whole
Okay.
Tartaria. So it was like oh, I don't know why it's so small. Okay. You can see it right now, right?
Okay, Grand Tartari.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a huge country, you know. It contained like 1/3 of Eurasia, and probably it's even larger than Russia today. And no one is telling anything about this country because it was, destroyed by the Christians, and Christians were like killing all this information and shutting all those leaks till maybe like 10 years from now. A whole bunch of guys started to take out all those maps where Tartary was really pictured, and everybody was trying to ask questions. What is Tartary actually? What is this country? And here's this guy. You can see he is twice taller than a human. He was a grand champ of this country, right?
Okay.
So,
well, first of all, let me make sure that we're on the same page with regards to who we're calling the Christians.
The Christians,
are we talking about the Romans? Are we talking about the Roman Catholics? Are we talking about?
I think it's a Greek Romans. It's not
Greek
like
Romans.
Greek
Okay.
Romans. Yeah. So it's like those guys who were like having like Indiana Jones and the last Christian, war. Have you had this video, Indiana Jones and the last?
Yes, Indiana Jones. Okay. So they were sort of explorers.
Yes, like frontiers, but they expanded the Christianity to the world, and they killed everybody, like Muslims and other guys, like pagans. You know pagans? What is pagan?
Yes, yes.
It's like pre-Christian beliefs, some stuff. So this Tartary country, it was a pagan country, and that's why it was destroyed. So
now I got you. All right.
So that's why all this stuff about Alexander Makedonsky and Macedonian, you heard about this? The Alexander king, who came to even India and was like a Persian king and king of, all these countries in the Middle East. And we have that information that he got his ass kicked around India and Tartary. So that's why he never conquered any other lands except Persia and this Egypt and Middle East.
Okay.
So it was the first war, and the second war was about 200 years ago. It was a war of Napoleon. So Napoleon came to Russia, and he got destroyed by his army got destroyed, and then he retreated back to Paris, and then Russian troops came to Paris in 2 years, and they conquered the Paris. Did you know that?
Yes.
You knew that. Okay. So I think it was like at that time where we completely lose the real history, because what we know before 200 years from this point is complete bullshit, because they don't integrate the Tartary information, because they don't say a Tartary was existing, but we have it on all those maps.
Okay, I get you. I get you. All right.
So this one is a Chinese Tartary king.
Okay.
And look at those devices that they had on those books. I'll show you the link. You can, check out with Lawrence. Maybe he'll find something interesting in those devices that they definitely use to navigate or, measure. And maybe they are like, will give you some clue.
Okay.
Okay. And what again I'll show you. You see, this is a globe, but this is not a global map. It has a map of stars on
That's the stars, right?
Yeah. So maybe that's a proof.
I've seen that before. That's a lot. There's a lot of there's a whole science based on that as well.
Okay, and what else could I show? And I found those pictures of those kings in that time. So
what you're saying, and I've heard this now multiple places, there's also another theory that there's 1,000 years of history added in that never happened.
Yes, yes, because those guys
And they
were
made up
definitely
all of
giants.
this. They made up all of this history that supposedly took place, but that it's 1,000 years added on to the whole timeline.
Yeah, if you give me some time, I'll find you a king of Florida, you know, a king of Florida picture. This is completely ridiculous, but this is artificial or snow.
Yeah,
It's
you're
original.
saying all of this history is made up.
Yeah, because you can,
Why do all of the guys look alike?
because maybe they're the same family.
They look like some kind of photoshopped kings, only that guy's got a big nose. It looks like the same kind of morphing Photoshop technology we have today.
I don't know. Maybe
Maybe
it
they're
was a
all related.
computer design
So
because
that's that. Yeah, exactly. All you got
they
to do
definitely.
is get some what looks like old paper and print some stuff on it, and most people wouldn't even be able to tell the difference, would they?
Okay. So, and what I was trying to say about those floods, that they actually did happen because we can find those bridges in the mud, which is completely insane for us
Right,
to judge. Because how can a bridge be under the the ground or something like that?
right.
We
So
have
you think that's a bridge and not a building with arches?
maybe it's an arches, but okay, if it
But why
is
would it
an
be
arch.
underground?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why is underground? Because you can see this huge height of this arch. Maybe
Right.
it's so definitely we had those buildings for designed for non-human beings or beings which are a lot taller than we were. So and that's why we see a whole bunch of them everywhere.
Okay, so let me ask you, since you're leaning toward you don't think there were 450 feet tall men, giants,
hmm
but you do think there probably could have been what, 36, 50-foot tall
I
men?
think the last one were about 3 meters tall, so which is comparable to 10 feet. That's an average
You
height
think
of
that's
them.
okay, so what do you think is the largest giant that walked the earth ever?
Oh, we cannot. I'm not that
I
person that
mean,
speculates.
there's bones that have been found, at roughly 40 feet tall. So, um, I showed you that movie that they made in China where they're all freaked out, or Korea or China, they're all freaked out about this Titan character. That's kind of like their scary monster Titan, and then there are these giant people. People turn into giants and come and eat everyone. Okay, so you don't think there were enormous giants that were thousands of feet tall or even hundreds of feet tall. You only think there were less than 100-foot giants. You there? I might have lost his audio. I think I lost your audio, Philip. Yeah, I lost his audio. Philip, you need to drop out and come back in again. We lost your audio. Okay, so let me show something that I was just found. Let's see, share screen, this thing, share. Okay, um, this is, let's see if I'm presenting. Yes, I am present to everyone. Okay, Philip dropped out. He'll be back. This is something that was just released recently, and it's big news, big news, big news. They came out, physicists from Germany have revealed the secret of the formation of natural hexagonal columns of the Giant's Causeway in northeast Ireland and Devil's Tower in Wyoming in the United States. Scientists simulated conditions of cooling of volcanic lava and showed how natural monuments took its shape. And they talk about the physicists and, it's a natural monument, volcanic origin with a height of more than 1.5 thousand kilometers. And all of this coming out now, suddenly, big news, when Giant's Tower's been there for how long? For like ever. And all of a sudden now we have to start releasing more new information about basalt columns and volcanic origin and so on. Philip, you there?
Yes, Bill
Okay.
Gates shut me down.
Oh, thank you, Bill Gates. Not really. So let's, I'm at the point now where I'm trying to decide. We have the historical, educational indoctrination background that tells us what all of these things and structures are. So now we need to come back to, okay, where do we start to reanalyze, and can we use the same science, the same element charts, the same terminology to describe perhaps what is the truth and what is really happening?
I think we can, because scientists are definitely the smart guys, and it would be not quite correct for us to just completely erase all the science that is right now on this planet and all this flat earth or whatever. We just have to separate those good scientists from the bad scientists, just like we do in the chat when we see trolls who telling us some bad things that we don't want to hear because they just trolling us, having fun. So my point of view is we have to get those good scientists on our side, and that's the only way we can prove anything. And we have those couple of scientists in Russia which are already into this alternative research, and they one of their good cases was the case with the pyramids and with chronology. You know what's chronology?
Yes.
It's like timeline
Right.
research.
The order of time, right?
And this where the number 200 years comes out, because after these 200 years we cannot understand what was before them, because we are barely proving something in 20th century, because we have so many contradiction sources, we have so many leaks coming out of the top secrets, confident documents. We have so many things coming out every year, every day. Like I never knew about United States bombing Russia, anything. Have you known anything about this?
Well, I didn't either, and I just saw actually. I think I sent you something about that to get your take on it. It was in our alternative news that they said, I guess it's a fine line compared to what is Russia now and what is Russian controlled territory, or what is Russian areas of influence, however you want to call it. But yeah, I just read that the other day in an article that we've been bombing Russian territory. Yeah. I don't know anything about that. I mean, it's not on any of our regular news programming. Of course, I never watch our regular news programming because it's programming. It's lies.
Yes, because they just, if they line us on topic of space, if they line on topic of globals, on all this
Right.
flat Earth
Then why
topics.
wouldn't, yeah, then why wouldn't they be lying to us about what's happening on a day-to-day basis? Of course.
Yeah. So definitely there are two sides.
Yeah.
One side.
And one side is propaganda in one direction, pro that
Yeah.
country, and the other
Yeah.
one is propaganda pro that other country,
Yes.
and nobody's telling the truth.
Yes. And so my point is, um, right now we have such powers that are controlled by some good guys, and those good guys are picked by the media every day, and they are being told that they are bad guys, like disgusting ones. They eat people, or maybe like they're the reason of every bad thing on this planet.
Right.
So, and we have those guys, and they are just mass media and bombardment of them, like every day. And if you Google for the most popular keywords, definitely on the bad side would be Putin's invasion, Putin's propaganda, Putin's this, Putin's that. Putin is the worst person on earth right now in Google, and maybe he is, but he is doing some good things to this planet. And my point is that he is not what he is showing us. He is
Well,
better.
okay, all right. So now you understand why I don't like Donald Trump, because you're seeing what the spin, you understand the spin,
Spin is
right?
like spin the wheel.
Yeah, in other words, this is the truth, but the propaganda machine
Yes, yes,
spins
yes.
it and tells you something else. Okay?
Upside down, upside down.
Yeah, or just reversed,
Yes,
opposite, okay, of truth.
opposite. Okay.
Just like, have you ever seen a North Korean propaganda film?
Yes, yes. Everything is perfect in North
Everything's
Korea.
perfect in North Korea, and everything is absolutely death, doom, and destruction everywhere else, especially in the Western countries.
Yes.
So, yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. That's how, in our country and in most of the world, all of the media is controlled by a few large mega corporations. Okay?
Yes. They are the
So,
same.
none of us are getting the actual truth. Um, you're being told one thing, we're being told the opposite. This is exactly what happened prior to World War One and World War Two. That the people are propagandized to and told this is what's happening. It's the same thing we hear every day. I mean, if you live in the United States, you think any minute now ISIS is going, the Muslim extreme terrorists are going to come down your street and break down your door and start taking people, okay, killing and beheading them. That's how, I'm exaggerating, trust me, but
Yeah.
that's what they would have you think, that it's that out of control. And
Okay.
it is so out of control that this is the valid reason why we need to keep soldiers in the Middle East all the time, and this is why we need to have our freedoms slowly eroded and taken away, because it's for our own good and protection. This is the game they play.
Yeah. You know what kind of propaganda we had in Soviet Union?
Okay.
We had the propaganda that sometime we're gonna all go to different planets and we unite as like global uh, one global country which gonna explore the final frontier, which is definitely space and all this universe around us, and we're gonna like
Are you
be
kidding me? That's so
yes,
bogus.
yeah.
Wow.
So
Do
we
the
had this.
people do the people believe it? The sheeple?
People believed it because they pictured in such common stories, like we all can feel the same while watching those movies and reading those books. It's a
Yeah.
science fiction, type of
Right.
stories, but
And it's always quite utopian.
not quite, not as Western writers did. They had those, um, interesting stuff like time traveling combined with uh, intergalactical wars and all those wars,
Star Wars and Star
Star
Trek
Wars,
and all
yes,
that stuff.
yes.
Yeah.
It's a whole bunch of interesting things. All
So
those books,
so all this futuristic stuff is a big topic over there?
yeah, it was a pretty popular topic because obviously it was sponsored by government and maybe it was like a propaganda background for the space programs that we have right now. You know that we had that Mir station, which was a prototype of today's international space station that we have. And Putin sunk that Mir station.
You know there is no International Space Station, right?
Well, they say it is International Space Station right now.
Yeah. So
Do they
that's
say it?
propaganda. That's
That's
propaganda and
that's
lies.
propaganda. Definitely, there is no International Space Station, but they say that it is. And what
I
I
mean,
like in Putin,
the International Space Station is just a set, a stage set in Hollywood, right?
yeah, it's maybe it's swimming pool or something like that,
Right.
because they
Okay.
have a lot of bubbles.
Well, we're on the same page there that that's nothing but some bogus made up crap.
Yes, I'm talking about that Mir station, that was a Soviet one, which Putin sunk. So he gave a command to those space guys in Russia to sink that station in the ocean, which is completely ridiculous to a money spending theory that we are talking about when we talk about fake space stations. So he erased that channel of spending money to those corrupt space program guys, and he told them, we don't need that space station anymore, just sink it in the ocean. Okay,
Okay,
so
so you have a budget for all the space stuff there,
yes, yes.
just like we do. Okay, billions.
In fact, we were the only ones who had space station at that time.
Okay.
The regular space station, which was designed for a long-term space. Those programs in like a year or something, like a two
And you're
year.
saying it was in the ocean.
They sunk it in the ocean in the beginning of millennium, not that far ago, from
Okay.
here, like 10 years or 12 years from now. So it was a Putin's order to do that, and I think he made a great job because he cut all the spendings, those corrupt schemes. And what we have right now is definitely the situation where the good guys are coming out from everywhere. Uh,
Okay.
they are politicians, they are writers, they are poets, they are comedians, they are rappers, and we have a whole bunch of those, like KRS-One, who was like a gangster rapper or something like that, and he, disgraces Obama regime, and he is like a criticizer of all this, you know, Bilderberg clubs and all this stuff.
Oh, okay. So you guys
So
know all about all that too, the Bilderberg Group and the
yeah.
Committee of 300 and the what's the other one? The one that Hillary Clinton was member of. All those same corrupt people are all the member of it. I can't think of it at the moment. I'll think
You
of it.
have a foreign affairs committee or something like that in the United States, which is a Bilderberg group representation in
Right.
the government, with foreign relations or something like that.
Well, so we agree that there's control people from every top country on earth, and they're all a part of the same committee. I call them the technocrats. They're
Yeah.
also the oligarchs. They just, they get together and they decide what everybody's going to do, and we can all act like we have some kind of democracy or republic form of government, but at the end of the day, just, they've already made the decisions, and they play this game of, I guess you call it the Hegelian dialectic. I don't know if you know what this is, but it's the classic problem, reaction, solution game. And so they create the problem, and then they wait for the reaction, and then they provide the solution. And look at there, everybody's happy now. And so that's what the whole space program thing's been been a part of the space program, between all these countries with the space station and everything. It's like they all got together and agreed, well, this is a good way to launder and siphon off. I don't know if you know this word, siphon, suck out all of this money, tax money, and printed money they make. I don't know if you guys just been printing money like we've been printing money over here, but that's how we keep spending all this money that we don't have. We just keep printing it and going more and more and more into debt and becoming more and more debt slaves every day. So anyway, the space programs are a part of that. The same thing with the militaries, even the little military people, the soldiers and the little people at the bottom, the sergeants and the colonels and they lieutenants, they have no idea who's controlling when they go to war and who they fight. They just belong to the military. It's their job, and for however long it lasts, however long they've signed up. But when you look at who's controlling, who's fighting who, a few years go by, you hear all this propaganda and rhetoric, and a few years go by and you go, wait a minute, why are we fighting them again? I forgot. It's like Vietnam. Why exactly were we fighting them? Oh yeah, communism, some abstract concept that's not even real.
That's a plan B situation. It's a plan B. Everywhere we go, we have a plan A and plan B. What we see right now is a plan A, but the plan B is coming, and the plan B is to pick all those bad guys from all those key positions that they occupy right now, which is the Federal Reserve, Global Monetary Fund, the United Nations,
World Bank,
NASA, CIA, FBI, and stuff like that. And you're gonna just, erase all those guys from the government.
And you think this is possible, that this can happen?
This is what's coming up.
Okay.
Because
boy, I mean, like handshake across the pond, my friend, because if that's true, I will be one happy camper. I mean, it's one of the things that I've been trying to wake people up about for over a decade. And but I mean, I think they have plan C, plan D, and plan E ready to go when those who have an uprising and decide a revolution and kick all of these people out. I think they've got all of that prepared ahead of time, that they're not going to go easy.
Lori, I think we've already had those plan C's, D's, E's, and they all screwed up. And right now we have like a wolf situation. Mr.
Okay.
Wolf from Pulp Fiction movie.
Yes.
When they screwed up, then they killed all those guys. They called for Mr. Wolf, who came and cleaned things up.
And Mr. Wolf, come and clean things up.
Yeah. Who is Mr. Wolf right now?
Who is Mr. Wolf?
Mr.
Don't know.
Putin.
Are you going to tell me it's Putin?
Mr. Putin, yes, okay, it's him. Because no one else does this job. He's cutting all this.
And you don't think that that's some kind of a scripted propaganda thing? You really believe Putin is a savior type?
We gotta have someone like Wolf, and there's nobody on this, elite that we can pick and say this is Mr. Wolf, except Putin. And I'm not a Putin, I don't favor Putin. I don't like him very much. But I like him for his good job that he's doing, and he's doing it step by step. He's coming to the time when everybody will realize what's going on. And he's showing, look, you supporting those terrorists who's cutting heads and eating hearts. He's pointing at this, propaganda of Satanism and liberal uh, demonism that we have right now, which is
Okay.
definitely.
I mean, I hear that. We have probably a couple of those around here too, but they don't stand a chance of actually ever accomplishing anything because they're not allowed to get close enough to the power structure.
Yeah, that's why I hope for Trump, because he's kind of in the same morale as Putin is.
Okay, well,
He's
let me ask you this. How do you compare Putin to Hitler?
I haven't I don't know anything about Hitler,
Well,
except
then
what
you probably better read up on Hitler
mm,
a little bit because it's a
except
lot
what's
of the
written.
same, yeah, a lot of the same threads woven in here.
Yes,
Um,
because it's the same card game. We have the
well,
same card game.
yeah, it's coming out of the same card deck.
Yes.
Okay. They just shuffle the cards and then, well, let's try it this way
Yes.
this time.
Yes. Yes. Because all these flat Earth leaks. We've been talking about leak with you on Facebook, and you asked me what is all those leaks coming out. They're coming out from all those whistleblowers that just coming on plan. Just coming at the same right time every time. Just like Snowden, just like all those other whistleblowers, they give the information just on time. And
All right, so let me ask you this then, because I just brought that up about Hitler and you were talking about Putin. And one of the main conversations for years from inside the truth community and, trying to expose who the controllers are, trying to put a name and a face to who the controllers are. So there have been these words bandied around like, you know, the Jews, the Zionists, the Khazarian Jews, the blah blah. What does you guys take on who you think the controllers are?
I think the controllers are not from our cell, as I said before, not from our Earth. Okay? So we have
Okay.
those cellular structure just like we have on trees, in our body and everywhere. It's the
All
same
right.
structure everywhere.
So you're saying that Earth is one cell, one pocket,
Yes,
not to
yes,
be confused with
yes.
Lord Stephen Christ's cellular Earth theory, but you're saying Earth is one cell, and there are other cells of humans too, or other
Mm, of,
beings.
not only humans. Humans are not the only beings on this huge planet which cells are contained at.
Okay.
I'm gonna show you how it looks on picture so you can understand.
All right. You keep using the word planet. Are you actually using PLANET or ATE? Planet, as in a plane.
You see, in Russia we have two words for the same meaning, or maybe three words, which is
Okay.
world,
Right.
Earth, and planet. Okay, so they
World,
have
Earth,
different meaning,
planet.
but
Do any of those? None of those really actually denote a shape.
yes. So
Okay. So
this is
yeah,
how it
we got
looks,
both
maybe,
there.
if you can see what I'm showing right now.
Okay.
So we have those little cells which contain an earth in it, and the surface is pretty flat, just like we observe. But every cell connects to other cells, and it has a nice barrier on the
I see.
okay. So
Okay, so you're talking about a really giant ball.
yes,
Okay,
that's why we have this gravitation.
all right. Well,
Okay,
you
we
see,
are not,
I can't. Go ahead. I will listen. I
and
won't
we
cut in
okay, and we
because I don't believe in gravity and big balls of any kind. I think it's a all giant plane. But go ahead.
so let me just maybe find some pictures of how it looks better. Okay, maybe this is. So this is how it looks. Okay. So again, I lost my mm, point on this.
Oh, sorry.
What I'm trying to say is that those guys came from other cells, and they are
Okay.
parasitic type of creatures because they don't want to work. They already conquered all those cells on the road to our one, and they know that there are a whole bunch of others, so they don't care if one cell is, messed up or screwed up or even died, maybe, destroyed by nuclear war or fire or flood, because they have whole bunch of other cells. That's why
Okay.
they don't care what's going on here, and they only control the mining situation right now. They control the income from this cell, and what's inside the cell is like a jail type of situation where we have the administration, which only observes and not interacts with all these prisoners and stuff like that, and where we have those prison laws, which we have right here, and the slavery type of situation where the most powerful and smart guy controls all this money, all the resources, and the rest, 95%, uh, have to, haul ass to get something to eat. So that's the situation that we have right now, and it was not like this 200 years ago, when we had another situation, another country, and it was a united, strong union, which okay, you want to ask something?
Um, I shift around in my chair a lot. Okay, so I'm gonna just keep my mind open and be okay with the cell thing, and not because I can relate it to your version that you guys are showing with the big soccer ball and all the individual cells in each
Mm-hmm.
spot, or I can picture it in my own mind in my version if I want, where it's like a big blanket made out of different sections.
Yeah, it may look
Okay.
like even like
So the idea
DNA.
is the same, and because I have said for quite some time um, that this is one of the reasons why we have these treaties. The Antarctica Treaty as an example, and this, um, this land is kept off base, away from everyone except for the scientists and those that they can control, to have these bases or stations there, and that there's some more cells beyond the so-called poles. They call them the poles, but they're actually not really
Yeah, yeah,
poles. They're not the end of anything. They're just the door to the next
yeah,
cell.
yeah. That's why.
Okay. So
That's
you
why they
said
control it.
earlier before we got going that because I asked you, there's this whole idea of when you talk about a cell that also pops into the mind, a jail cell.
Yes.
And so you said you thought that we're in jail, we're in a cell.
Yeah. Right now it's like a jail situation because we cannot get out of here. And in fact, those guys that are administrating this place, they insist that we stay here, and that's why we don't have this, um, uh, natural love and happiness situation everywhere. We only have it in capitals, which is the capitalism type of order, which we were talking about in the beginning of our today's conversation. And maybe somebody wanna know about. Everybody wants to know about this capitalism. Capitalism means that we have all those capitals which suck in all the human resources, money, financials, stocks and everything, production, logistics into those capitals, and the rest is the country which doesn't get any of those resources, no taxes, no favors, and they're just on the side of the road of those rich guys. And they get only what is left from them.
Okay, so you're saying that the capitals are the cities or the urban, jungle
Centers.
area center, and that they're that and actually we have moved toward that over the last several hundred years from everyone being spread out all over the place to these urban centers
Yes.
and very little in between. And as a matter of fact, that's the whole premise of the idea of Agenda 21, that there will be these corridors between these pocket cities, and that it's no man's land in between. In other words, it will be used for agriculture and keep being kept in pristine conditions so that we don't ruin everything. Okay, whatever. So, okay, so the capitals, the word capital and capitalism all go together.
Yes, because it's the same thing. If you think about capital as a money, it only concentrates in one hand,
Right.
sooner or later. If you think about the game Monopoly, you can understand about what I'm saying. You can imagine. So only one wins,
Right. Yeah, I hate the
and
game Monopoly. It is a representation of
yes,
the
capitalism.
winner. There can only be one winner, and the person who wins has all the money.
So how can this system be fair to everybody if only
Can't.
one wins? So
Right.
that's why my point of view on this situation that we have to switch to socialism first, then figure out what to do next. Because all those enemies from ourselves, they want us to concentrate in those cities. It's the easiest way to control us, maybe to cheat us someday, and search on our private life like they do today. So it would be easy to control us. And if we engage in this revolution type of stuff, they can easily cut us on roads, roadblock us, and so we cannot get out of those huge towns with those huge amounts of people coming out at the same time. That's a traffic jam at least, or
Right.
maybe even a catastrophe type of stuff. So
Right.
murders, the word murders in do you have it? So when
Murder.
no, not just murders, but marauders. Those guys
Oh,
who
Matador.
no,
Is that
those
what you're
guys
saying?
who steal stuff from the shops when there is a riot or something like that.
Oh, looter, marauder.
Yeah, marauder. Okay,
Okay.
so those guys who are poor and stuff, and they when they find out there's a revolution or riot or something
Right.
like that.
Okay, I got you. Like the gangs, the gangs that get together and take control of
Yeah, finally
the
the
chaos.
game's gonna control those marauders, but at the first time, everybody's gonna be murderer and finding what to do, what to eat, what to shoot, and some they're gonna steal cars, they're gonna steal houses, they're gonna steal all the precious things, and
Right.
that's why we don't have all these historical proofs, because when those wars are coming, all those big murderers teams, those death squads and stuff like that, they go to those peaceful little towns that are around those huge capitals, and they steal and they kill and they grab all the things from those small towns. That's what happened in every war, and this is not what I want. I want those huge towns to separate in small ones and then disappear in some other day, because I'm more close to the Project Venus topic that is online right now. But I think it's a kind of a city type of thing too. I don't believe in those huge amounts of people living happy all together, and I think we have to like separate and divide in those cell type of structure, which is autocracy type of structure. You may think autocracy is type of tyranny or
No, I understand.
monarchy.
I understand the concept. I understand what you're talking about. You
Autocracy
brought
is
up you brought up the Venus Project, which has sort of been a near and dear to my heart project for several years now. I actually uh, drove over and visited and met Jacques Fresco
hmm
a few years ago and spent some time. It's actually called the Venus Project because it's located in Venus, Florida. A
mm,
lot of people think that it's called the Venus Project with regards to the planet Venus, and that is not the case. But yeah, the idea of the Venus Project is a form of socialism that it scares the crap out of a lot of people because they think of socialism as a step away from communism, and so that whole Venus Project was misrepresented, misunderstood, I guess is better, especially when Peter, what's his name? Peter, the guy from the Zeitgeist movement
hmm
got a hold of it. Peter Joseph, when he got a hold of it, he really messed it up in the minds of a lot of people. And but I'm with you. I believe in the smaller pocket communities based on um, providing your own resources and sustainability within each community, and not in these mega cities. I think they are the work of satanic minds, big
Yeah.
cities, because you can't, because then you're completely reliant on whoever's providing the resources, the food, the water, the sewage, the whole thing. I mean, you're reliant on all of that being brought in and not being able to provide that for yourselves. With the Venus Project, everything is you know pockets that can be self-sustaining, self take care of. Excuse me, I have to cough. I'm gonna mute myself. So
That's what I'm talking about. The autocracy, which is definitely consists of two words. Auto is like automatic, something like that, and cracy is order or ruling type of thing. So automatically ruling amounts of people which are not separated from each other. They are connected to each other, those groups, and they elect maybe one person who represent those guys, like a House of Representatives right now, something like that, and they collect on all this Congress type of stuff, and but no, budget on this span. This is all
right,
online situation. They connect from their houses like we do right now from Hangouts. We don't need no money, no, plane tickets, no hotel rooms, no foods, no, we just sitting in our houses, in our armchairs, and we're doing our stuff that goes to our cell, our house, our farm, or whatever. And
right,
we are we collecting all these products, and we exchange, just like we had in those ages when the exchange was on, when the real
right.
stuff was a price, not the zeros on those green pieces of paper, right, which is not you know, a gold or any kind of resources right now, which is completely ridiculous for me. So,
well, for me too. I mean, you know, I agree with you. In reality, money started out as a means of exchange. If you have a chicken and I know how to build a chicken coop, I build a chicken coop for you, and you give me a chicken for it, okay? And now we've had as the Indians would say, a good trade. But it got to the point where there were, you know, as society grew, then it became a rate of exchange to have a piece of paper or some coins to trade, and then we didn't have to, you know, actually look for the guy who has a chicken and work the trade. Okay, so it made sense until the money changers came into play, and you know, we all know the history of what happened then. The whole banking cartel took over. So, all right. So, one of the
okay, this is the instrument. Money is one of the instruments that they use to control us. Money. First one is money. Second one is cities, like these concentrated places, like cities and towns and capitals. And the last thing is our useless. We are all useless right now. We cannot do anything with our own hands. So what we have, all those skills that we had 200 years ago are now gone. You know, we cannot.
Well, not all of them, but I get your idea.
Most of them. Most of them.
My hands, and lots of people do, but I get what you're saying. That you know, we're all working for the money instead of each other.
If I read to you what a 12-year-old girl could do like 100 years from now, a 12-year-old girl, you would be pretty surprised because she could do a lot more than you can. A 8-year-old girl could go to a forest, hunt, fish, pick some berries, mushrooms, and just provide a whole family with food. Right. 8-year-old, 12-year-old girl could, you know, make bread, you know.
So yeah, I mean, I agree. I was taught all of that when I was a child. My grandparents were thought along the same path as you do, and as we're talking about. You know, they taught my brother, my sister, and I. The other two didn't care as much for this information as I did, but I embraced this information because to this day I know how to hunt, fish, find my way around, forage, survive in the woods. You know, I wouldn't be sitting there like a little crybaby up against a tree going, oh my God, what am I going to do? You know, I mean, I would figure it out. And those are skills that you know, have been lost. And once they're lost, there's no one to teach, and you know, generations die out. There's no one to teach them anymore.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the generations online. We have 3 to 4 generations online in each family. It's an average amount, and what they have is a 6 to 8 generations online. They have a more predictable future because they can teach the orphans, or not orphans, or offsprings, you know, to do what to do or not to do.
And okay, so you have large families that are still living together in Russia, unlike the United States. That's not the case, or is that also going away?
I'm talking about the procedure. The first procedure is switching us from natural exchange to money exchange. The second step is dividing us from one union country to different types of countries like we have, and switching us from one language to different languages. mode. So now we have a mode of different languages. So
Okay.
and like 200 years from now, we had one language, and we could understand each other. And it's a great thing that I know English because I lived in the United States for a year, and I was studying English through all my high school, and that's why I can talk. I even can talk French. But look at those Generation X that we have right now. What they can talk about? What are they gonna discuss in 10 years or 20 years? Pokemon catching? What are they gonna talk about? Hoverboarding,
Pokemon catching. That's what they're
parachute
going to talk about.
jumping, parachute jumping. What are they gonna talk about? I don't know. Killing each other, maybe.
Video games
Yeah,
and
that's all we got.
going to the shopping mall.
So they did all these steps to separate us from each other, and now we have what we have. We are weak because we are separate, and that's what Putin talks about when he came to rule in place, came to his presidential position. He first said that we have to unite, and he united all these political parties in Russia, which were about a number of 50, 50 political parties in one country. So united like 40 of them in one, and it's called the United Russia now. It's corrupt, it's a mafia type of structure, but it's a good idea, and that's what I like. When he talks about good things, when he talks about the past, when he talks about all these good things that were in past, and he implements it in our modern life, that's a good thing. And that's what I think Donald Trump's gonna do. He's gonna isolate, he's gonna concentrate, and he's gonna do what America needs. Right now it needs the boost in economy. It needs a conservative president, which is not liberal, and it needs to cut all the spendings, all those useless military exaggerated spendings, and all these budgets that are going nowhere.
They have certainly worked you over. I'm sorry. they the media has apparently gotten you to understand that all of those things are needed, and if you want to continue with the same system that we've had for hundreds of years, I would agree. But I don't want to continue the same system, because
Sorry,
once something has become corrupted, it cannot stand. And it's just like, if you have a basket of potatoes and one of those potatoes starts to rot, it will ruin the entire batch. It'll get its stinky, smelly, rotten potato all over everything, all the other potatoes. And that's what's happened to our whole system. Now, we can continue to talk about politics, and you and I probably won't agree as far as what we want the future to be like, because I'm a rather idealistic, utopian type thinker. I do believe that humans have the capacity to, live with each other without these warlord governments that control everything we think and do and have to buy a license for. You can't even go out and catch a fish because you have to buy a license to fish, and you have to buy a license to hunt. You have to buy a license to drive a car. I mean, everything is so about money. And, Trump is all about, all of the politicians are all about money. So, in my opinion, I'm more about. Uh, I hate to use the word tear it down because that just sounds so chaotic, but the system needs to be remade. The system we live under, I'm not so sure about how your government works, but the system we live under was designed hundreds of years ago for a rural country that was divided by a massive amount of land between people, and the only way that they could have some kind of cohesive governance was to send people from all of these different places that represented all these different people to one location. The problem is you get them in that one location, and that's when do you know the word lobbyist? Do you have
Yes,
those
yes,
there?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
The lobbyists buy them, own them, bribe them, corrupt them, and they suddenly forgot about all the little people back where they came from that they're supposed to be representing to the best of their ability. On top of that, you have these gigantous government monster that puts its tentacles, this octopus that puts its tentacles out into everything everyone's doing everywhere, instead of just being focused on what it's supposed to be, and that is coordinating the states, coordinating the protection of the country as a whole, and you know, being a central clearinghouse of helping everybody in the case of a national catastrophe. Other
Yeah.
than that, what do we need these big government entities for
Yes. And it's
today?
not equivalent to the spending that they are doing. It's not equivalent to it.
It's not equivalent. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
The price quality situation, when you have a price and you have a quality.
Okay.
Quality. So the
Price and
quality,
quality. All
yeah,
right.
price is very high and quality is very low.
Right.
That's what we have right now. And what Putin and Trump are going to do is they're gonna raise the quality and they're gonna cut the price. That's the
All right.
first step.
Well, you know what? We'll see. I do not agree with you at all with that, but it's okay to agree to disagree because I have very little faith in one man's vision of anything anymore. Okay. I've heard this. Do you know the Peanuts comic strip?
I
Peanuts
I know what's peanuts.
with the
I know.
Snoopy and Charlie Brown and those guys, and Lucy,
No,
the little girl who holds the football for Charlie Brown, and every time he runs to kick it, she pulls it away.
I don't know the
Okay,
movie.
sorry, bad analogy from
Mm.
across the great pond, but the idea is we've heard all of these promises before, and every one of them comes, and again, this could be totally different than what's going on in your country, but in this one, the story, the talking heads, we call them, say
Mm-hmm.
the same thing over and over and over again, okay? And then they get elected, and everybody goes, "Yay!" And then within a year, it's you hear the game show noise, wah 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 wah. They lied again, and they can't. They come up with all these excuses. Well, we can't do that because the Congress won't work with me, or the blah blah blah, and it's all these excuses. And then 4 years later, they come back. 3 years later, they come back and they say, "Oh, now we're. If you vote for me again, I will. Well, I'll fix it." Okay. And this has been going on for um, literally hundreds of years. All the while, in the back room, the deals and the payoffs and the corruption and all of that stuff. Okay. And it gets worse and worse and worse. So I personally don't think that there's any one person or any one small group of people who either A, have the ability or really B, care enough to actually do what they say they can or want to do. So
Lori, do
that's
you
the
think?
little bit of difference between you and me.
Yeah, Lori, do you think that a flat Earth theory can exist with Donald Trump at the same time?
No.
That's why Donald Trump and other guys are just first step to get us closer to the truth. We gotta have those first step guys, and
Okay.
that's why.
We've come to a dead end on that one.
Yeah.
All right. I think that you see everything a whole lot different from your perspective about what's going on over here than what we do. And I'm a pretty big realist, even though I'm an idealist. Okay, so let me ask you back. Is flat Earth the the thing that a lot of people have thought this for a couple years now? Is flat Earth a catalyst, a way to wake up a lot of people and get them to understand that there's been all these lies going on? I thought so for a long time. When I got involved in it and I started looking at it and I started seeing the depth of the lies, okay? But let me pose this to you. What do you think is the biggest lie, the biggest bit of information that that if it were exposed to the masses would wake them up and make them understand that they live in a completely useless, corrupt system?
I think we gotta push on three directions. First direction
Okay.
is flat Earth. Second direction is fake history. And the third direction is the community. The community and the future way of living. So we gotta show different masses of people that some system that is different from this system works, and it works very good. If we can show those pilot projects, and if we can show those startups, we're gonna improve on this one. And the first two objects are pretty hard because the whole science community is against us. Either historians or geologists or geographists, they are all against us because they are getting all those grants from governments, and I don't know how to change it. The only way we can change it is making a big movie, a big documental movie on this topic, which would be made scientifically right, and it's gonna be scientifically proven, and all those facts gonna be obvious to all those watchers, all those viewers. So that's the only way we can push this two directions: the history and the flat Earth.
Okay, so you're saying flat Earth, the community of people coming together, and what was the last one? The other one?
We're gonna make a movie. We gotta make a movie to show it to other people. Like
okay, so we need to raise money to find a movie producer company who can help us, or because you know what, trying to get a bunch of people together is sort of like herding cats, I've discovered. To try to get people to, you know what herding means? Trying to get cats to go where you want them to.
Yes, yes, I know. I know. Makes sense.
Okay. So Ronnie's been in the chat, watching the chat throughout this, and I'm going to have him join us and kind of give us a synopsis on what he thinks, both from listening to the show so far, the Hangout, and also to give us a rundown on how people are accepting or thinking about what we've been talking about. Hi, Ronnie.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Philip. Hi, Lori.
Hi.
Good conversation with many interesting topics. The mood in the chat was definitely a mixed group of people, which is expected. And like I said to Martin Lickey, we can listen to everyone's ideas and theories and discern and use our, spirit or whatever it is that we use to decide what is valid and what is not. A few of the questions that you guys were answering from the chat was, is there any proof for the monstrous tree cutting tools? The other one was, People were asking if you were pro-Putin or not, because there is a mixed group of people coming out of Russia. You know, Philip, I'd just like to add my own opinion, because in the truth-seeking world over here, we generally like to research all the facts. And for me, I feel that the propaganda that comes out of Russia and the propaganda that comes out of the United States are two feathers on the same wing, let's say. And you know, I can even go back to the Bolshevik, the Jewish Russians that were largely in charge of the Senate and the Russians that, you know, caused a lot of war. So it's, for me, I'll summarize this and then throw it to you, Philip, is could Putin not be working for the same people that Trump is working for, and they're just playing dialects to get, let's say you get riled up for Putin, we start cheering for Trump, and it creates this dialect where people can, you know, war. What do you think?
I think it's not a bad idea to elect Trump right now, because definitely he is better than Hillary, right? And I guess everybody is agreeing with me on this topic, because Hillary is she had her time in being Secretary of State, and she had her time being a wife of the president for two different periods. So I think she already made all her job that she could possibly do, and she barely stands on her feet right now. It's a well-known fact. She's kind of sick or something. But Trump looks more like conservative and more solid to me as a person. So what is Putin like? I don't know. He's a FBI person type, you know. He plays different games at the same time, and he can control what we cannot control. That's why he is a great leader, and that's why he is still uh, on this elite type of guy. You know, he is not killed or like Gaddafi or some other. You know.
Well, Philip, that goes back to the point of what I'm making, is that whether you're Trump, Hillary, or Putin, you still are controlled by the same people.
Yeah, that's what I'm coming to. And
Okay.
those people are, you know, what are those people? Who are them? No one knows. Maybe those Rothschilds, or maybe those Baruch guys, who is a lot higher on those pyramid, like Rothschild is. He is lower than Baruch. You know, Baruch?
Rothschild's the mayor of the families. There's about 300 families. You'll never hear their names.
Yeah, you know Baruch guys? Baruch
Uh,
family?
no, I don't.
Baruch.
Maybe Baruch, yeah.
Can you spell it?
I'll try. BARCH. Oh, BA. Okay. Listen, doesn't
No,
matter. So those guys are definitely are higher than Rothschilds and Rockefellers or any other Morgans or anyone, and they are in the shadow right now, and no one knows anything about those guys. We know about them because we were like communists, and we're supposed to now find out who are those imperialist guys are, and we know those families. We studied their histories. We studied where they came from. They came from Holland. They came from Rome. They came from Greek, you know, colonies. Those.
So that's what he's talking about. The 300 families is what.
Yes.
Call them.
They masters
Council
definitely
on
they are.
Foreign Relations and
But
building
they
firms,
control.
those
They
guys that are
control.
controlling them.
They are controlled by the administration from the other cell. They are not the leaders of this cell, because they are just, you know, puppets like everyone else. And what is Putin right now doing? He is breaking the system. He is showing those cell owners, those owners of this earth, he's showing them that he can work without this slavery type of thing that we have right now. He's showing that we can go conservative. He's showing that we can produce a lot more being free than being enslaved. And
Well,
he's showing that we can do a good job.
the thing
Okay.
is, I'll just interject. The sad thing is, Philip, if you're awake and you're studying all this stuff, you would realize that Hillary Clinton and Trump have been set up. You could tell by the speeches that they're saying, Philip. Trump will say one thing, and Hillary has the answer. So what I'm suggesting is that it's scripted. I'm sorry that you like Trump because he is trying to build up Russian enthusiasm, and this is what I'm trying to explain to you, Philip, is the enthusiasm that they've built up in you is the same dialect that they're building up in the Americans. Hillary has been scripted. She is going to win, regardless of what anyone thinks, and it's like they're building up Russia right now, Philip, so that you guys feel rah. It's all about leading up to Ball War 3, and
Yeah,
we have to realize that these ball wars are just, they should be in the realm of the ball worlds, because I live on a flat earth and I don't need someone in a suit. These people do not care about us. Philip, Putin does not care about his people. Like, you've been led to believe that he does, but he lives in a castle, he swims in his pool, he reads the propaganda every day. He's just living life like there's no worries, but I'm sure there's people in your country that are starving, so
of course, everywhere is starving, and he's talking about it, and he says that we need to change this. And I think we judge those first step guys like they're just messiahs or something like that. They're not messiahs. They're the first step ones. And I know you don't believe me on this topic because
Oh, it's
you
not. Wait, no. It's not about believing. Okay, we have already been through the concept of statism and patriotism, and the building up of support your country, believe in your country, and the United. I mean, let's face it, the people in the United States have been told for centuries that we're the best in the world. We have the biggest army, we have the best democracy, and all of that. What they call Pax Americana,
yeah
and you guys are going through that now. You've been up and down and up and down the same way we have. I mean, our country felt pretty defeated when we lost the Vietnam War, as a perfect example. But the propaganda that you hear and that we hear is nothing more than what is commonly called electioneering. And what electioneering is, believe in me, vote for me, and I'm going to fix things.
yeah
And no one can do that. Putin can't do that. Trump can't do that. No one person. The only way that that will ever happen is via a collective belief that all of the people in the world are one people, one earth, no nations, no countries, all of that. What they've done, though, is they've taken that concept and they have completely and utterly screwed it up by calling it the same thing that I'm talking about, only it's controlled by these few people, and they call it the New World Order. Okay? It sounds very utopian. No borders, no boundaries. The UN will be in control of everything, and there will be leaders from all the countries who will get together and we will do what's the best for everyone. The problem is, if you're correct that the leadership, the control is actually coming from a secret group, or worse yet, from outside this cell, then we don't stand a chance, because if there's an opportunity for them to come in and just say, okay, you guys want to rebel, we're just going to just blow y'all up. Okay, we're just going to finish it, like what happened perhaps to the world before. Okay, and I don't mean to sound like a nihilist, because I do in what I just said, but it's going to come down to live free or die, and most people would prefer to stay alive, even if it means that they won't be free. And that's where you come up with these movies like Hunger Games and such as that. So we have to outthink that kind of thinking that they have and that they've tried to instill in us. The word patriotism makes me want to rah. Okay, so that's my soapbox, and if you don't agree, that's okay. But until we all agree on something that's truth, we're going to be at the mercy of these so-called leaders.
That's what I'm talking about. We gotta agree on the first idea is going in all three directions at the same time. First direction is flat Earth research. Second direction is history research and revision and all this history stuff. And the last one is a community, the best community type research. So we gotta have it like a socialism or whatever. We're gonna research on that. We gotta make a pilot versions of those communities, and we gotta watch them how they're doing, and if they're doing great, we're gonna switch this world to this community type. The new community type, like Venus Project or whatever we call it. We're just gonna do it because it's working. And
okay, so how do we combat this history revisionist stuff? Okay, for example, David came forth in his video with the No Forest video with that there was this catastrophic flood and perhaps even a nuclear war or a nuclear event, which lots of flat earthers don't believe in that nuclear is even real, that it's made up, just like volcanoes. And then you come forward with what appears to be evidence of some serious, at least mudslides in Russia. Okay,
not only in Russia, everywhere.
Our country was very young when you're talking about. Okay, and so could there be revisionist history that easily that covered up that much stuff in the United States? That there was some catastrophic flood or a nuclear event or whatever, perhaps, because maybe that's the reason why this whole Mandela effect concept has come into the picture all of a sudden. I mean, oops, we lost Philip again. The idea of the Mandela effect is to make people question their own memory, their own, not just their short-term memory, but their long-term memory as well. And I'll give you an example of the long-term or short-term memory. I watched a documentary where they went into great effort to have a crowd of people, small crowd of people, and they had somebody come in and snatch the purse of the person that was standing in the crowd. And everybody watched it happen, and the purse snatcher, thief, got the purse and ran away. Okay, and so they took all of the people into this room, and they said, what color was the purse? All different colors. What color was the person's clothes that they were wearing that stole the purse? All different colors. I mean, in other words, all of these same people who just witnessed this thing to happen all had different memories of what they saw and what they remembered. So it's not that much of a stretch for history to be revised if suddenly you start burning books and you start putting everybody sucked into television programming and fluoride in their water and so on, and then and on antidepressants by the wazoo, and then suddenly nobody really could argue with you if you said, Godzilla walked across America in 1812. Do we know who Godzilla is?
Yeah, I know. I've seen the movie.
Okay. So so this is the part where we, this historical revisionism stuff, we have to realize that it's a possibility that this no forests video was put out there for the purpose of creating confusion and distraction and everything else, just like the Mandela effect and just like the cloning centers and David Icke with the lizard people that live under
Yeah.
the ground in the caves and so on. How do you decide what of all of this is truth? And Rhonda, you
Uh,
can jump in there too if you choose.
I think we don't have to go very far. We have to like revision, make a revision on the 20th century first, and then we go to 19th and 18th and so on. Do you know that Russia has a different timeline than other world does? Do you know this?
That Russia has a different timeline than the rest of the
Yes.
world?
Today is like 2016, right? Right?
Uh-huh.
And in Russia it's like 75-20.
Say again, it's 75-20?
75-20, something like
Okay.
that.
All right.
From
I
the
have heard of this calendar system, yes.
Yeah, so we have like 5,000 years erased from the history, and it was done in 17th century. That's all when those dating uh, processes were cut, and we switched to the Roman calendar, which is right now used by everyone. So
Right.
even Jews have 5,000 years of history, and Chinese do, and Indians do. So it's a whole bunch of things to make a revision on, and we gotta have a revision on technology first, because the technology is what we can really prove. We gotta prove that those guys 200 years ago had a lot greater technologies that we have right now. They were more advanced in those natural type of technologies. They had maybe a greater tools or a greater mechanisms or maybe more advanced computers. But we don't know anything yet because we never started this research. We only on the first step again.
Okay, so let me interject here. Since you brought up the idea of the other cells, okay,
yeah,
and that is just as possible or likely as any other plausible way of looking at perhaps what happened to our Earth realm, okay, that perhaps somebody came in and ransacked the place and and threw a match over their shoulder as they were walking out the portal, okay, and didn't care, just burnt it all up or whatever, if you want to call that nuclear event, okay.
okay,
So that, okay, people say, well, so how'd they cut these tree stumps off so nice and clean? And how did they do this? And where's this large mining equipment, right? That's like the equivalent of in the flat Earth community, is there or is there not uh, uh, 24 hours of sun in the in the South Pole, Antarctica, in the summertime there. Okay, so no, it seems to be this continuing argument. Well, I don't want there to be a continuing argument about these trees because that's just distraction. That's when it does become distraction. But there is a way to get past that, and one example is if I, for example, um, wanted to go to Central Florida. Okay, Florida is where I live. Florida has most everything going on the coastline because everybody wants to live by the beach and the coast and everything. And as you get further into the state, it becomes more and more rural and more like a jungle. And so not as many people live there. All right. So if I decided, okay, I'm going to go over to Central Florida and I'm going to take my bulldozer and I'm just going to plow down a big area, like 20 football fields, and just start digging around and see what I can find, okay? Because I heard there's gold over there or precious stones or something. Um, that would be the equivalent, perhaps, of what could have happened here. And then when you got done, would you just leave your machinery where you got finished mining? No, you take the
No.
machinery with you. You
Yes, of
know,
course.
you go to the next cell over there or the next
Yeah.
area of that cell, and you take your mining equipment and you go over there, your big saws or whatever it is that you cut those trees down with.
Yeah.
So, for anybody to think that if we don't find machinery, then it couldn't have happened that way.
Yes.
So I don't buy into that argument at all. Ronnie,
Yes,
do you have any thoughts on that?
you take your instruments with you when you leave the forest, or finish the house,
Right.
finish the bridge or whatever. You go to the next objects and do.
Right.
It's interesting. Sorry.
Go ahead. I invited you in, so go ahead.
Well, it's interesting. There are definitely a mixture of thoughts, speculations, and observable proofs out there. So what I'm finding is a lot of people are relating all of the mountains are supposedly tailings from these giant coring machines, which is false. I do believe there were many mountains before and after any of this has been done. Now, the second claim is that trees couldn't have grown this tall, and I speculate that for sure they could have, and they probably will again, with or without humans. I'm just finding a lot of people are looking at this no forests thing with is there truth mixed with lies here? I can't state that yet, but the basalt formations, I can't see any other way to explain it. And the rest of the stuff, that's yet to be discovered. Going out into the world with your cameras and looking at these things and figuring out if ice could have, slid down between these rocks and, broken them into completely perfect 50 feet or however tall the basalt columns are, hexagonal shapes, if that's even plausible, in my opinion, it's not. So I still think people need to keep an open mind, because there's a lot of negativity coming out against this concept that these giant trees were mined, and that some of the aggregates such as rock, granite, who knows, maybe even yellow cake, uranium and plutonium and other types of things have been mined, and gold and nickel and copper, and we can't really determine whether or not the earth has been completely stripped. But I still think we need to have an open mind, and I just see so many naysayers. The earth is flat, this is a realm, ball World 3, War World 3, or whatever you want to call it, is coming. So I think the best way for us to do this is through open source. If you have any information pertaining to any of these topics that's discussed, please send me an email, put it in the Flat Earth Conspiracy Facebook group, contact Philip. We need to just keep going. I think it's great that Philip is reaching out, whether it be across the Bering Strait or through any means. I think it's great that we're connecting. He's hearing our opinions. Be careful not to believe everything you read and all the propaganda, Philip. Keep an open mind, because our leaders do definitely like to play the game, and we have to keep in mind that who cares about us? Me and you and your kids and my kids and our families. And I don't see any politicians or powers or leaders really caring.
Well, let me throw this in here real quick, because you brought that up about, that there's people who are saying that this is a distraction and that we shouldn't even be going down this path, and that this is all a big lie. Look at it this way, and this is the most important part of the backlash, if you will, or the ripple effect of this new information, whether it's true or not. Okay, there are going to be people now who have new things to investigate and new things to look at. For example, there will be people who, I mean, I've seen people posting photographs of, this was when I went to Devil's Tower 5 years ago, okay? There are people who are headed to Devil's Tower right now who perhaps will get some samples of rock on the ground that looks like it came off of that tower itself, and you know, and take it somewhere and have it analyzed, for example. Or people wandering around in the forest looking at trees and rock formations and the comparison of the two and so on. People are getting connected back to the earth. They're getting out, you know, off of the computer and going around and looking around. Flat Earth has been a huge proponent of go and watch the sun, go and watch the moon, see what the stars are doing, compare notes, talk to people from one country to the next country across Earth. See what the sun is doing where you are and where I am. See what the moon did last night and can you see it right now? All of these kinds of things are you know, where we can come together and compare notes, but also this is the thing that connects us back to the earth. And then maybe once we get communicating again, like we're trying to do right now, okay, even though we've already run into a couple of snaggles where Philip thinks one thing and I think another and Ronnie thinks something else, it's okay to you know, have different opinions as long as you listen, really listen to what the other person is saying, okay, and embrace their history, their past, their whole propaganda and indoctrination that they've gone through. This is going to be the only way that we're going to be able to cut through all of that garbage, and maybe the future will not be found in the past. Maybe the future will be found starting right now, and you know, maybe the past doesn't even really matter. That's part of the reason why I want to continue this way of looking at things, because if we find out that it doesn't matter, that we can't change anything about it, and that we can't even learn anything about it, all of it, because we can't even dig it up, then perhaps we can go, okay, let's just take the record and scratch it across and go, and then go, let's start fresh. So that's my opinion on why this new information jolts us into perhaps a new direction.
Can you see what I'm sharing?
Yes, more of those basalt things. Let me present you.
Yeah, there's one guy who, in the beginning of this live show today, he asked me to show this, what he was picturing, and he is trying to say that it's a lava type of structure. It looks like hexagonal structure that we see on Devil's Tower. So he's not saying that Devil's Tower is a lava thing, but he says that lava can be hexagonal. But I see some random shape. I don't see any match to the Devil's Tower right now, but it looks kind of the same, I guess.
Well, it looks kind of the same, but it also looks like there is some material in between these columns
that
does not fit into the program. For example, I mean, that could be mud. It just as easily could be mud that's gotten down in there, you know, and hardened almost like concrete.
So the next thing I wanted to say is the bonsai trees. You know the bonsai trees in Japan?
Yes.
So how do they make these trees? They, as far as I know, they make some like atmospheric pressure and vacuum or something like that in some bulbs, and those trees you know, grow those trees in those bulbs where atmospheric pressure is not the same as we have right now. So that's why those trees are so small. And the point is that if we had a nuclear war or some fire or some like what he found in the ice, that we have a lot of CO, maybe we had we have lost the atmosphere, as he says, and we have lost the barometric pressure, and that's why we don't grow as tall as we were, because the pressure is a lot higher right now than it was. Oh,
Okay.
not a
Well,
lot lower than it was. That's why
okay.
we are so small and not as big as those giants 200 years ago, and not as big as sequoias. We don't have those trees anymore, and we are losing atmosphere after the war and after the nuclear event, and obviously this can prove, because when you grow tomatoes in a barometric camera in vacuum, the tomato grows like a tree. So
All right.
uh,
I'm looking at. Okay, what happened to it? Here it is.
okay.
I'm looking at the oldest bonsai tree on record. All right. It's a 1,000-year-old pine bonsai in that little container. Look at the bark on it. Look at the actual wood on it.
Mm-hmm.
And these things are passed down through families, obviously. Okay. And they're sold to people, and they're, revered as special because they're so old and in these containers. So the thing that makes bonsai special is the care and trimming and maintenance and feeding, changing of the soil, repotting, all that kind of stuff. They snip the roots just like they snip the tops.
Yeah,
So
this is the hugest one, right?
yeah, that's the oldest one.
And is it big in comparison to others? Are there
No,
more miniature ones with
they're all miniature. Look, can you see all of these? These are the
Yes, I see those.
oldest bonsai trees. Okay,
Yeah.
none of them is that big. It's just that they're um, purposefully cramped for space. If you let a tree grow, I don't even think you could probably let a tree grow in nature like these to be 1,000 years old, because I think disease and rot and other trees take over, and left to nature, they probably wouldn't last that long. So um, the idea is, what happened to me? Controlled environments. Um, if, like you say, we're in a cell, we're trapped in here, our environment is controlled. Ronnie, you have something that you wanted to share?
Yeah, if you could present me.
Yeah.
Another thought that I've been having since this idea was brought forth was when looking around at trees that are growing out of rocks, as everyone can see here, it's just fascinating for me to see that, these trees do grow out of rocks, and the similarities between all life forms, right down from our very own DNA structures to these rocks, to the shapes, the veins, the ventricles, even the way a tree mimics our vascular system and our lungs, and how they form and work, and the electromagnetic energy that's flowing through us all. And it's really hard for me to see trees that have grown out of rocks that turn into rocks, from what I'm seeing, and deny the fact that there were these large trees, and that everything that we've been taught has been, to control an evolution style narrative, whereas the word monkey turns into the word human. And for the listeners, and for Philip, if you don't know me, I know Lori does, the Peltdown Man was a hoax. There's not one transitional fossil in the entire fossil record that shows humans becoming a human through this 100th monkey. It's all basically just garbage. But what we have found is that there's a resonance that that is in and throughout all of us, and through this resonance we can share knowledge and truth. And I believe this is what's being driven, and through the spirit, through the creator himself, to us, back to him. And this is our true essence of life. But if someone can tell me that these trees and these forests, the little bush forests that we see, they grow out of rocks, and they don't understand or can't make a jump to thinking that these were once trees, or vice versa, it just seems absolutely insane to me for someone to tell me that trees grow out of rocks and there's rocks that mimic the exact shape of trees. I just wanted to add that in.
So did you, Philip, did you go back and find those pictures of the, it's been bugging me all day since we started talking about the bones that are stacked up in the catacombs? You said
Yes.
you said you had an explanation for me that why they made such an artistic stacking of all of those human bones.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you what was before that, what culture that we had and before those bones situations. So you see this? How do you call
Yeah.
this in the United States?
We call those a bunker.
A bunker.
A
So
bunker.
yeah, we have a whole bunch of them, right? Maybe like 10 miles from where I live. They contain the bones of the persons who lived here, like in the 9th or 10th century, as they say, those crooked historians. So
Okay, so yours are basically tombs.
yeah, so
Okay.
it's a culture that was spread all over the Eurasia continent. So we have those bunkers everywhere, and why do we switch to the satanic human-eaten religion that we have right now? Is because, as I said, we were split and we were divided by these huge distances between those cities and those countries. And when you live people without transportation, without vehicles, without the technologies, when you flooded it all with mud, uh, and I showed in my video how you can't move in the mud. So if you've seen it,
Yeah, I did watch the guy that was up to
yeah,
his
it's
eyes
just
in the
it's
mud.
just completely impossible to move in the mud. That's why it was used by those bad guys from outer cell to make us be separate from each other, and that's when we started to talk different languages. And began more separate when we have this everywhere in Europe and Asia, when we have these huge amounts of mud and sand everywhere. There's no time to communicate and to find out what's going on, especially when your government is corrupt and controlled by those families that we were talking about. No one's gonna find out anything because
Right.
it's so burned in those libraries that were burned everywhere, and we see all the regimes. First thing that they did is burn in the books that did not match the propaganda that they were flooding and supporting, and so what I'm saying is we had this culture of a satanic thing, uh, which we represent right now, and so we have it everywhere. and this culture is like progressing, and it progresses in different directions. It progresses in uh, overtone window, if you have it. Overtone window, you have it in United States.
Overtone window.
It's like you gotta read it. It's like a technology to
Oh, Overton window. Okay.
yeah, to make a completely ridiculous and impossible thing to happen. That's what we have right now. We had first we had this. We had secret societies. We had those Masonic lodges, which were practicing Satanism. Now we have the Church of Satan, which is legal in Chicago. I think I've heard about it. And
Yeah.
we have this satanic Masonic things legal in Europe, and we have those. Uh, let me this culture and Marilyn Manson type of dressing, and this
Do
is
you
all
have
come.
that? Do you have that over there? The goth, they call it?
Yeah, we call it gospel.
Yeah.
So um, and finally we go to this guy who is who is definitely a cannibal, and he is bad, and but look how he's shown in this movie. He's shown as a positive hero. He's shown as a honest, perfect, superhuman creature, which is producing always positive thinking. And especially my wife likes him as a hero.
Oh God.
She watches all those movies about him, and she's like, it's like a fairy tale for her. She's watching it every time. So
I mean, he's definitely a good actor, but he certainly plays some pretty creepy roles sometimes.
yes, that's what Overton Window does. It
Okay.
uh, when we see this, we finally go to cannibalism. Sometime we finally go to you know all these bad things that we don't want our kids to do.
Okay,
And
so you're saying that things like when they have the what do you call it? Um, Vampire Diaries, for example, a
yeah,
show like that where they make vampirism look like a cool thing, you know,
yeah,
a whole bunch of kids in a show and everybody's attractive and they kill people and drink their blood and it
yeah,
comes off as looking quite normal and it's normalizing the fringe satanic
yes.
belief system. Yes.
Yes, that's what. If you wonder what Christianity did to us, is it actually did this. It actually built this situation. So those my cat was screaming. So it actually built this first basement of this satanic house that we have right now. Because what Christianity do is like I'll show you. Look at this. Do you have this in your churches?
You're not sharing your screen.
Okay, let me show you. You know what it is?
Oh, what is that?
It's like fingers, hands,
Oh, it's
bodies.
part of body parts in the church that are revered. They're parts of saints.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I don't think the Canadian, at least I should say,
You
have
don't have
any
that. It's a very
No,
big thing in the Catholic Church here.
there's a
yeah.
word for it. Is it called? It starts with an S, where they They weren't embalmed, but these saints were supposedly preserved. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
personally, just a quick remark is that it's totally
And
satanic, right? So
yeah, look at this. They're kissing them, and they think they're holy. And so for me, the
Well,
Christianity,
they do think they're holy because they're parts of saints.
um, as they say, but in our Russian early ancient pagan religion, we don't have it. As I shown you, we had those bunkers and we had those fires, which burned all these bodies because it was well known that the cells of the body contain the parts of the soul. So if you preserve the dead body, you obviously don't get all your parts of your soul when you die, and you're
Right.
supposed to wait until it's all, disappears. That's
Okay,
why,
that is called the incorruptible. They call that the incorruptible parts of the saints.
yeah,
Um,
and what they do with these parts, they send them to different churches where those poor Christian people go and pay, obviously pay for visiting those churches. When they go to church, they, you know, put some money in it, like for what do you call it? When you go to church and you give them
tithe,
money, uh,
tithe,
maybe yes,
Tithe,
yes,
tithe.
that's right, yeah. So
tidings to when you give to the church. It's
yeah,
also a good representation, Philip, of the patriotism that Putin and Trump tries to revile out of their people. It's the same parallel. To worship these saints is to make you more holy. So to get behind our presidents is this. Anyway, sorry.
well, what I'm saying is, you switching the morals that and the good things that Christianity gives us to these bad things, and we have it. We already have it, and it's everywhere. We have those people cutting heads. We have those people like maniacs and stuff, something serial killers everywhere, and it's a global problem right now because when you eat and drink the Christ blood and you eat the Christ body every time you go to church, eventually you come to be a maniac or something like that,
Well,
and that's
well,
what
you
we
know,
have.
well, sorry. No, most people that I associate with understand that the Word of God was the bread, and the blood of God was the Holy Spirit. These were just metaphors that have. It's basically like in one of the scriptures, the Lord God's commands that this guy's stomach is going to explode, comparing it to how much he's eaten. Like we've all said, I'm going to eat so much my belly will explode, but we all know that it's not. So we need to be very careful. I don't believe, maybe there are a sick group of people out there that do this, but I don't think, Philip, that that's quite Western backed. I don't think we believe that the juice is Jesus' blood and the little piece of bread is his body. I don't.
Not mixed with all these dead bodies that I've shown you. When you talk about these metaphors about the Christ blood and Christ body, it quite fits in my mind. But when it mixes with all this satanic kissing of the dead bodies parts, and paying money to visit them and to touch them, it's completely insane for me. Okay, you
Well,
can.
let me just interject here, and we're over 3 hours, so I want to kind of try to wrap this up. Each of these religions that are practiced around the world, across the world, um, each have their own history, their own culture behind it, their own, I call them jump up and down on one foot, um, kind of ways to get to heaven, in other words. If you do this, then if you do this, then you go here. And each one of them have their own relics, their own, what is the word, artifacts, historical background from, and I'm including the pagan, all the pagan religions as well. So to compare them and say this one's satanic and that one's not, you're going to immediately put a wedge between you and whoever it is that historically practices, which is an
Yes,
obvious word,
yes.
that
That's
religion. Okay? And so that's one of the reasons why we've been told not to go there. Now, in a perfect world, there would either be no religions at all, or there would only be one, because division is created when you have multiple different factions, just like cults, you know, going in all these different directions. So somebody somewhere along the line corrupted and created all of these different versions of all of
yeah.
these belief systems.
Yes.
And to what end? Okay. Ronnie, I'm going to let you jump in there and say something, and then we're going to kind of try to wrap this up.
No. I
Oh,
have
I must have
after
read an old message. Okay.
yeah, afterthoughts. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for everyone in the chat. And yeah, thanks Philip and Lori. I'll
How did,
just say
well, I'll find out later. I'm sure the chat went okay, that we didn't have too much disruption, and thank you
Nope.
so much for running it and moderating.
It was fun to be a part of the open source side. I'm sure there'll be many questions flooding in after this, and I'm sure
Yeah.
Philip will be obliged, and he seems quite open sourced, so we'll keep connected.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we just let it flow wherever it wanted to go. We did, start out thinking, planning, sort of, to talk about certain things, but it became interesting to me, at least, to compare the different viewpoints of being from two different cultures and two different places on Earth. I mean, think about it. Our histories are separated by perhaps thousands of years, possibly only hundreds now that
Yep.
we're kind of going there. But even hundreds of years doesn't take long for the divisions to set in, especially if somebody's manipulating it, correct?
Yes. And if you look at the word religion, what it means really,
Yeah.
it means so repost, redo, rebuild, renovate. That means doing it again, okay?
Right.
And what is religion is? Religion is a unite. So religion is the reunite thing. So when one union was split up, as I said, we needed to reunite, and we made this religion. That's why it was made like this, and it was created to reunite some groups of people because they were separated. And that's maybe a nice point to stop this conversation today, because it's already
Okay.
kind of boring for guys to listen to us, because we're going over again.
Okay. I thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate it very much. You coming along to talk with me, and I hope to do it again. And I think we did two things. I think we cleared up a few things, and I think we put out a lot more questions. And
Yep.
so it will definitely be a continuing pursuit of the truth, and a continuing pursuit of, revisiting and trying to come up with, well, what do I believe today based on what I learned today? And what do I, and every day it's going to turn, it's going to change. And it's been that way with me since I got invested and involved in the truth movement in general, and the flat earth movement, idea, revolution specifically. So thanks everybody for joining us that are watching, and thanks Philip for joining me, and thank you Ronnie, Event Skeptic, as always, for your help and guidance on the chat. And we'll see you on Wednesday with Ronnie and Lawrence as normal, and me, and perhaps Philip will join us again if he has time, but it's going to be late, so it's going to be very late in the night for him, but you're invited and you're welcome. And that's about it. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Good night. Good day.
Good night.